Now back to the show. This is AM 650's The Law Show.
Good to have you with us this last Sunday morning of March. I'm Stirling Fox, joined in studio by Rain Henderson and Kevin Heinrichs from Henderson Heinrichs LLP, a Vancouver family law firm with a new office in Toronto, just opened. Mustn't forget that. Wanted to ask you, and you, the CBC beat me to the punch here, Rain.
Yes, they did.
You were on the national news just the other night in response to this bizarre new age dissolution of the relationship between Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin of Coldplay. Gwyneth went on the internet and she said, we're consciously uncoupling in this new age sort of pretentious way. And so the TV people crawled over to your office and said, well, what do you think of this nonsense? And what did you tell them?
Well, I told them I'd never heard of it before.
Okay.
I think we can
I don't think anybody has.
Kidding.
I think it's one of these things where we can offer it on our list of services and charge a premium for it.
Well, sure.
It seems nothing different than a separation where you are being amicable with one another and staying out of court.
Yeah.
That's it. It's lovely language. Conscious uncoupling sounds great.
Nothing wrong with the idea. It's the pretension behind it.
I suppose.
And one of the things that comes from this is, again, looking back at how the Family Law Act has come into play, and that is exactly what they want to see happen. They want to see the separation happen without going through a court, that you're uncoupling using the resources and the tools that are available in BC to get to that resolution without having a judge pronounce a decision on your children, your support obligations, or how you're dividing your property.
Well, Kevin, that's really the bottom line, isn't it? When it comes to the conscious uncoupling approach, that is the mediation thing, getting together and working like grown-ups to resolve the issues to a degree of satisfaction for everyone, versus all-out war in a courtroom.
Yeah, if you've got grown-ups, then that works well. It's the fact is that you don't find people coming into the office too often saying, I want to hurt myself. I want to go and spend all my money so that I will have nothing left. Very few people want that.
Right, but maybe they come in and they don't even know that that's what they want.
That's
because
exactly
all they want is they want to have that son of a gun that just ruined my personal life, and I'm censoring myself heavily. But, that so-and-so, I want him punished.
Yeah,
it's not good enough to just arrange a satisfactory support arrangement and divorce the guy. I want him punished. He wrecked my life. And so that's your starting salvo across the desk from somebody who is so worked up they can barely see straight.
And that's a common opening salvo.
Sure.
And that's something where somebody comes in and they say, that's their primary aim. I want the other person hurt.
Right.
And what we have to let the person know who's come into our office is that
you're not thugs.
We're not thugs. We're not hired guns who are out to hurt the other person. But what we're out to do is to help our client. And I've got to say it, that often the other side doesn't want us to help our client, and we can reassure our client that the other side won't be particularly happy if we do our job.
Right.
The fact is, though, that's not our aim. Our aim is to help our client reach the point that they should be reaching, going down and getting to the place where they should be. And when I explain to my client that in 5 years they're going to be less concerned with what the other person's doing, hopefully, than whether they've got sufficient money or whether or not their kids are being raised properly, they start to understand most of the time that that's a far, far more important aim than hurting the other side.
And what do you do, Rain, if someone sitting across the desk listens to this very lucid explanation as to why you should just let some air out of your tires, take a few deep breaths, and let us go to work for you? That person is not going to do that. They are just so worked up and so intent on revenge that that's all that matters. What do you do with that person? Send them to someone else?
Not necessarily. I give everybody the opportunity to show that they can actually get past that emotionality. It may send them away. Go ahead, think about this. Come back when we can talk about it again, but digest what I've told you, and I'm not going to take your money to do what you're telling me to do.
Right.
And then if they come back and they're like, no, this is the agenda I want this, and if I don't, as a human being and as a lawyer, don't feel that that's something I'm going to do, I'm going to say, no, I'm not capable of taking your client.
I mean,
You're not going to be satisfied with what I'm going to do because your instructions to me aren't in your best interest.
Well, not only that, but we have a reputation as well.
Well, exactly.
We don't want to go into court on a useless application that we know we're going to lose simply because our client has instructed us to go and stretch things out,
right,
or to go and to apply for something that we know we can't get. That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help us, doesn't help our client, doesn't help the court system at all.
One of the biggest things I think that Kevin and I have found is that you're in the business long enough. The court, the judges, the masters that you're appearing before know you. And there is a degree of trust that when I'm talking to a judge, they're going to know, okay, well, Ms. Henderson, you don't come to court with nonsense. So I'm happy with that. And that is why when we screen at the beginning, we are policing about what our clients are going to want us to do and whether we're prepared to take that on.
Right.
Because we're busy. We don't have to take every client. We want to be in a position to help our client legitimately and get them to the point where they can be moving on in the next chapter of their life.
Kevin, help us out here. This is the Law Show. We like to teach people things, and I love to learn things. Rain was just talking about the judges and the masters that you have a reputation with in the court system. What's a master?
A master is a person who makes decisions in the courts. It's a form of judge.
Okay.
If you looked at the length of litigation from the start of a court action to the very end when there's a trial,
right,
judges can make decisions all the way through that process, right to the end, right to the trial where the final decisions are made. Masters are there to make decisions right up until the end. They can't make the final decisions in a trial manner or in an action, but they can make all the decisions that go on in the in-between. How much money are you going to pay for child maintenance
right.
between now and the trial? Who's going to live in the house between now and the trial? Who's going to see the kids on which days between now and the trial?
So they would have masters making these decisions in order not to tie up the judges' time, and they deal with more serious matters.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, they're a lower level of judiciary.
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
refer to them as your honors.
Oh, okay.
And when we go before a judge, we're my lord,
or
my lady.
Oh, still, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, isn't that something?
And we still gown for trials.
Of course.
And I like that aspect of where our law still
There's
stands.
a little pomp and ceremony that's still in the system.
But and I'm sure that this bit of advice is something you pass along to all of your clients, and we're talking about the new family law among other things today, and the emphasis, this renewed degree of government level emphasis on negotiation and arbitration and working it out, doing that conscious uncoupling thing. But for those who don't want to do that, and this whole the matter of trial comes up, is that not the riskiest way to do it? Because if you go to trial, if you declare war on your ex-spouse, and I'm not going to be satisfied until you're in your robes and the judge is there and we got us a full theatrical performance going on, but the risk is so high. Here's a third party that doesn't know you, doesn't care about you or your circumstances until they're in front of him or her. They will make all the decisions. You will have no say. That's pretty high risk. You could lose it all.
You could lose it all, and you could be penalized by having court costs ordered against you.
Wow.
So our system, again, is geared towards a resolution out of court. So if you exchange reasonable offers and you before a trial, and you don't accept a reasonable offer, and at the end of the trial, you got worse than what that offer was, the court can say, okay, you should have taken that offer, buddy.
And does that happen?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
they do it.
And we actually
you were
have
offered
it,
a much better settlement months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You blew it.
You blew it.
And you know
and
what?
it can be even double costs because we have in the family law rules the opportunity to say, okay, that was such a good offer. You really blew it, buddy. You're going to pay double costs.
Wow.
And so it's not repaying your lawyer's fees because it will never compensate for that, but it certainly is a pretty good stick to have to keep people reasonable.
You know what, though? I mean, Rain and I don't go to trial when we think we're going to lose a trial. We don't go to trial when we have been unreasonable and we're taking an unreasonable position to the court. We're going to trial because despite our efforts to settle matters, it won't settle.
Right.
Even in the court system itself, even when you start a lawsuit, when you start going to the courthouse, the system is set up to try and settle things. When you first start a family law file, the first thing that happens is there's a settlement meeting. It's called a judicial case conference, and it's a meeting with a judge and the two sides, and they sit in a room and they try and settle things.
And aren't you also ethically bound as family lawyers when a person comes to you to discuss the dissolution of their relationship to ask, is there any possibility of reconciliation?
Yes.
Yes, and that is, I mean, it's an important part of things, right?
And we get the answers yes, but the other side doesn't want to,
Uh-huh.
or we often the scoff, no way,
Not a chance.
not
Right.
ever going to happen.
Right.
But again, and it's not just that one time, Stirling. It's a thing we have to evaluate all along the process, because the emotions change throughout. And I
Sure.
have had files that
Yes.
have been, nasty contested things, and then a reconciliation. The phone call, we're back together. And it's like,
And it can be on
Okay.
at the
Really?
drop of
Yeah.
a dime, you can get that phone call that, oh, we had a good night last night.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
right?
And we go, okay, well, maybe what we want to do is, that's all good, but do
Right.
you want to put in place an agreement so that you don't have this happen again? But no, it's good. The honeymoon stage is back in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just before we take another break here, agreements, and,
Yes.
and we may spend more time on this, but how many people, my daughter's getting married this fall, she finds it incredibly unromantic.
It
when,
is.
When,
Oh, yeah.
when I talk about prenups and stuff,
Yeah.
Dad, come
Yeah.
on, we're
Yeah.
in love.
Yeah.
You have to have something to make it worthwhile, Stirling. I mean, it's...
But how many of today's young couples are actually going, well, the numbers speak for themselves. Divorce averages are really high. So based on reality, maybe we should do some kind of contractual thing before we get it together.
Yeah. Look, if you're two young kids coming in with nothing and you're going to build up during your marriage, you don't need a prenup.
Right.
If you have inherited money, Stirling, if you're going to be giving your riches down to your daughter, and, this is
or if it's your
something
second relationship.
then those are incredibly valid agreements to have,
Okay.
because they allow for certainty, provided it's negotiated fairly, there's independent legal advice, there's no duress, and it has an overreaching fairness,
Yeah, not only
despite the
that,
fact you
but
may be contracted out of
it
the
lets
legislation.
I always tell people that it allows people to be more romantic, because once you've dealt with the
That's
money
true.
matters, you don't have to worry about them anymore. You can concentrate on your relationship.
And how many young couples get the romance and the hormones flying around and never have the money conversation? They're married 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden there's a big fight over something, and, well, I never knew you felt that way about money. Well, I've felt that way since the first day I met you.
a lot of the reason-
Why
Why
didn't
did
you
we talk
say
about
anything
it?
Why didn't you
about
say
that?
something?
Yeah, and it's still, we still see situations where there's one family member that may not have any idea about what the finances of the family are, because
Right.
one person just controlled it.
Well, and that's kind of old school. I think that with more equal income distribution, more women, for example, as wage earners, but certainly the old school model was
Yep.
the stay-at-home mom, in many cases, didn't have a clue about the finances.
Got an allowance for groceries, and
That's changing, and yet it's still there,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting
It's
stuff.
still there. And, money forms a big percentage of the reasons why people come through our office. It's not uncommon for people to split up due to the money matters.
Interesting stuff. Our guests on this episode of The Law Show, Rain Henderson and Kevin Heinrichs from Henderson Heinrichs LLP, right here in Vancouver and Toronto, too. We're back with lots more right after this quick timeout on AM 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is AM 650's The Law Show.